Welcome to Work from the Inside Out, a podcast that highlights real-life stories, practical strategies, and best practices for transitioning your career from unhappiness and dissatisfaction to fulfillment, meaning, and joy. Now here is your host, career and executive coach, Tammy Guler-Loeb.
Hey everybody, I am so honored to introduce to you my guest, Dean Wegner. Dean graduated from West Point in 1993 and served 7 years in the Army as a helicopter pilot and Army Ranger. After the Army, the majority of Dean's business career was spent in business development, marketing, and strategy with Mars and Procter & Gamble. In 2017, Dean founded Authentically American, a veteran-owned, American-made premium apparel brand. Authentically American is a brand that celebrates patriotism, believes in the American worker, and honors our American heroes by intentionally donating 10% of profits to veteran and first responder charities. As a former Division I ice hockey player, Dean is highly competitive, possesses a tireless work ethic, and he still plays in a men's beer league every week. Dean is active in his church and serves on the board of several for-profit and nonprofit companies and organizations. Dean and Authentically American are riding a wave of national media exposure, having been featured in Fortune magazine, Yahoo Finance, and Sirius XM Radio. Welcome, Dean.
Well, Tammy, I am honored to be your guest. It's so great to spend some time with you.
Well, thank you. And thank you for joining us from your home office in Nashville, Tennessee.
Nashville, Tennessee, Music City. If you haven't been, you got to come visit because it is an amazing city to go ahead and visit and an amazing town to raise a family as well.
So, Dean, work from the inside out. It's all about all the twists and the turns and the changes that we've made in our careers. You certainly have had a very interesting life and an interesting career and lots of changes. And thank you for your service, by the way.
Well, Tammy, I appreciate that. It truly was an honor, to serve our great nation and raise my right hand to serve, protect, and defend, the Constitution of the United States. So I appreciate that.
And I know that there are a lot of different things that you experienced and did during those years, and that there are a lot of other decisions that you've made along the way as well. But, we all came from somewhere. We all had different influences along the way and things that we did. So take us back to some of the earlier years, some of the things that might have been formative for you that started you off, and how those led you to where you are today.
I wish I was a lot smarter back then, but, my parents gave me some great advice, and there was some goals that we wanted to get out of college.
Yeah.
And I was a hockey player and loved the sport. And one of my goals in college was to play Division I ice hockey.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one, it was reinforced to me how important education was to me. So I wanted to get the absolute best education I could.
Mm-hmm.
As I was looking at different schools and different colleges and opportunities, I received a phone call from the hockey coach at West Point.
Ah.
And I was very familiar with it. But when I really dug in and started reading about it and, seeing some of the literature they sent, and I couldn't go online back then and
right.
do research, but it just really resonated with me, the opportunity to play Division I hockey. And then even more so, just get an incredible education. And that year.
Had you been, prior to that, had been thinking about the military at all?
Had not at all. And that's why I said there were really two goals. One is Division I hockey. The second one is the opportunity to get a great education. So military didn't even resonate, didn't even have a thought. And
wow.
Think back historically.
Yeah.
Back in the late 80s, early 90s, there was not a lot going on. And I am so proud right now because Authentically American, we're an official licensee for West Point. So when I entered West Point,
okay.
Tammy, the thought of going to war, it didn't even, resonate. It had been so long.
Yeah.
We hadn't been in a conflict.
Yeah.
Versus today, I go to West Point at least 2 or 3 times a year.
Yeah.
Just to hear the stories, the number of applicants has never been higher. The quality of applicants has never been higher. And reason being, it's not for everybody, but those that now attend West Point or any one of the service academies, they know what they're getting into.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a very real possibility that you're going to be put in harm's way. You're going to be deployed. You're going to be in a conflict. So I think those that really understand that, really want to be there. They really want to make a difference.
Yeah. And yet when you went because you wanted to play hockey.
I say that a little sheepishly here, Tim, because I was, quite immature back then. I'm like, what do you mean serve our country? Like, great education, play hockey.
Well, I'm sure you had an inkling of what you were headed for when you got the call from the coach, and I'm sure you were delighted to hear from them.
Absolutely. And, God's provision and timing, and, talking about that word intentional, being so intentional with our 4 kids.
Yeah.
So, for example, my 10-year-old son, we adopted from Ethiopia.
Yeah.
So an hour north of Nashville is Fort Campbell, which is one of the largest Army bases, and have a friend that I went to flight school with, that I graduated, West Point with.
Yeah.
And my son, Eskel, our 10-year-old, is interested in West Point. So my friend offered to give us a tour around, Fort Campbell, and we got to climb in and out of helicopters and see everything. It's like, Dad,
wow,
I love this. I want to go to West Point like you, and I want to serve my country.
Wow.
He's also a hockey player, but he wants to play hockey. But, he understands now at the young age of 10 what I didn't understand when I was 18 years old.
So that's a really interesting point, Dean, because I think about how many of us were influenced in one way or another by either our parents or, other influential adults in our lives as kids. So you're talking about your son and how he's getting, he's learning about your experience, and you're able to take him to the base and see what's going on there. And I'm wondering what influences you might have had in your earlier years that played a role in your being more intentional, and was anyone in your home, had they been in the military? Did that have any role in any of this?
My dad, Tammy, served for 2 years in the Army. It's not easy when you go to West Point. I mean, it's difficult. It's not the traditional state school experience. And, just those, core values around character and integrity and hard work and commitment and honesty, all that, really was the foundation that started with my parents and that upbringing home that was fostered even more at West Point, and that had an opportunity to live it for 7 years, serving active duty in the Army. And this is where we can be an opportunity to be a light and really have an opportunity to make a difference.
Yeah. So I'm curious, from your experience in the military, going from West Point, I would imagine a very structured environment, being a young man and going from those different experiences, from an education to then active duty to then the corporate life. I'm curious about what those transitions were like for you, how you just also decided to, when you were finished with the Army, how you decided to go into the business world.
You got it, Tammy. And I think one thing that I can tie in, when you read my introduction, talked about being an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I did not know this back then, but, I had that inkling of that entrepreneurial spirit, very early in my career. And for example, after West Point, what happens is, you choose a branch your senior year.
Oh, okay.
And I didn't know this back then, Tammy, and most people don't, but there's 18 different branches you can choose. So a lot of options. So there's infantry, which is really the heart and soul of the Army. There's armor, which is all about tanks and field artillery. And then there's all the combat support, whether it's transportation or finance or military police. So there's a lot of different options. And for me, Tammy, it really boiled down to 2 options. But I was also considering aviation.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. You remember that movie, Top Gun?
Yeah.
Yes.
You wanted to be Tom Cruise?
I was probably more resembled Iceman, so I was thinking more like that. But that was like, wow, I want to be, that would be really cool. I would really love that. So ultimately made the choice to go aviation,
Mm.
part of me was always wondering, did I make the right choice?
Hmm.
And to
Why
give you
did you
some
question that?
well, I mean, back to if, anything I do, I'm all in. And I
Yeah.
thought, well, if I want to be in the Army, I ultimately want to be a general in the future. So did I make the right choice? Because a lot more generals come from infantry
Mm.
than come from aviation. But, one of the things that happened, Tammy, is that flight school, and just to set the background, because
Yeah.
on one side of the Army,
Yeah.
is the infantry, special forces, Rangers.
Yeah.
And on the opposite side is aviation.
Mm.
And at flight school, they gathered all of us together and said, hey, guys, once in a lifetime opportunity, we're going to have a competition and we're going to send one of you to Ranger School. And I thought, Tammy, here was my chance, to see how the other half lived.
Yeah.
And I was very fortunate, won that competition, went to Ranger School, and it was miserable. It was absolutely awful. It was so bad that I loved it. And I didn't know
So
this
bad
back.
that you loved it. Is that what you
Yes, some
said?
things are so hard, they're so difficult, you don't think you're going to make it through, that you look back with the fondest memories, and I would never want to do it twice. But to give you an idea, because most people are not familiar with Ranger School, but to give you an idea, so on day one, there were 342 of us.
Mm-hmm.
72 days later, there were only 70 of us. I mean, so an incredibly high attrition rate. And what they do at Ranger School, it's ultimately a leadership course, and they want to go ahead and deprive you of everything they think you need to survive, namely food and sleep, and then put you in incredibly stressful situations. So for 72 days straight, you're living on one meal a day, and you're living on 2 to 3 hours sleep a night, and then put incredible stress. So it's all about no sleep and incredible stress. And again, back, Tammy, to being an entrepreneur. I didn't know it back then, but such great training for being an entrepreneur, because that's what I'm living now. No sleep and incredible stress.
I hope you're getting more than one meal a day, Dean.
We are eating. So
Good.
it's the sleep. But, it was interesting because when I walked into my first unit after going to flight school and Ranger School, you get the Ranger tab on your left sleeve, and people look at that like, what's wrong with you? Like, those two don't go together. And that was part of that entrepreneurial spirit. Like, okay, wanted to do things a little bit differently.
Yeah.
People in aviation don't go to Ranger School.
Yeah.
And at Procter and Gamble, for example, 6 years there, Tammy, one of the things I heard most frequently, like, well, Dean, what are you doing? I'm like, well, that's not how we do it here. That's not the Procter way.
Huh.
And I think there was always just burning in me, not a desire just to do something different, to be different, but really to think a little bit differently and how we could do things even better. And sometimes I'd hear like, well, Dean, we've tried that before. Like, well, how long ago was that? Or did you try it this way and a little bit twist? So I think, there, just as I look back now, it's easy to see that inkling of that entrepreneurial spirit that was there. I didn't even know to call it an entrepreneurial spirit. You can have that in being an entrepreneur and starting from a blank sheet of paper like I did with Authentically American, but I think you can have that same entrepreneurial spirit. I've heard it referred to as an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
In a bigger, larger corporate setting, but there's still an opportunity to think differently, to think creatively, to have an opportunity to make a difference.
So I'm going to ask you a question about this a little bit. This is still going back to your years in the military, because so you were in this competition while you were in flight school, and you got, I'll put air quotes, you got rewarded by then getting to go to Ranger School, which as you say yourself was absolute torture. And so that was, you can say that was kind of entrepreneurial because you went for the different thing. At the same time, you were in the military, where basically there's a very strict hierarchy. You follow orders, you stay in line. There's not a lot of coloring outside the lines. And yet here you are, you're the guy who's always asking the questions and trying to think a little differently about things. So I'm wondering, how did that work for you 7 years in the Army?
So it was similar there, Tammy, and you could go back a number of stories. And, I think I'm so thankful again for the values
Yeah.
that I picked up at West Point, for the
Yes.
opportunity to serve our country and the men and women that I
Yeah.
serve with. So that was probably the biggest takeaway. But the other thing is, with the military,
Yeah.
there is structure,
Yeah.
discipline, and there's planning. And, authentically American, I don't have a blank sheet in front of me, but it was a blank sheet of paper.
Yeah.
And I tell everybody, I'm exhausted because it's been 3 years. Because when you start with nothing, I mean, it's literally been brick by brick, just building the foundation.
Yeah.
But before we even started, I mean, there was a very robust 3-year plan and pro forma financials. I mean, had really thought through methodically in detail on where we want to go and what we want to do.
Yeah.
And a lot of that goes back to the military, because the military, you'll hear things like a 5-paragraph op order, an operations order, very systemic, very planning. And to me, it's a lot easier to go ahead and adjust a plan versus having to create a plan on the fly. So that's where I think, having that foundation from West Point in the military, has prepared me even more for being an entrepreneur. So I can have, the core experience and background in planning.
Yeah.
But then also have that side of me that says, okay, now that we've got a plan, how do we think a little bit differently?
Yeah.
How do we think creatively? How do we kind of test those boundaries that may have not been tested before?
Yeah, I like that. I like the way you frame that in terms of having that foundation. And then, but I can also imagine your experience in Ranger School that also enabled you to basically have to deal with anything that came your way in the moment, dealing with, one meal a day, 2 or 3 hours of sleep a night, and really having to, essentially operate on the edge. And I can imagine that also, sort of exercised a set of muscles as well that
no doubt about it.
Prepared you for entrepreneurial life as well.
And I'll give you an example currently with Authentically American made premium apparel brand. And our vision is to build this iconic American brand. And to give you some historical context on the apparel industry. So when I graduated from West Point in 93, over 50% of the apparel in the U.S. is made in the U.S. And today it's less than 3%.
Wow.
So 97% of people and brands out there, Tammy, say, well, I'm going overseas because it's a lot less expensive. Mm-hmm. And I thought, here's the opportunity to choose the road less traveled. Mm-hmm. Because another thing that you learn in working at a great world-class marketing and branding company like Procter & Gamble and Mars is you have to listen to your consumers. Mm-hmm. And I had talked to countless people, and they were interested in something American made as long as it was competitively priced. Mm-hmm. And that's where, as we started to build out the financial model and where we could be from a pricing standpoint and margin standpoint, I thought, here's an opportunity to really, pursue the road less traveled, to really have a brand that's unique and differentiated from anything out there, and still have a healthy, profitable, viable business. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And we're not out of the woods yet, Tammy, but we're 3.5 years into it.
Well, but what you're sharing is both, you're still in the starting out, you're still getting out of the starting gate from what you're describing, but you're also working on a vision, and you know where you're going with it. And I like the way that you're also reflecting back on your experiences in the Army, your experiences at Procter & Gamble, and how those were the building blocks that enabled you to feel maybe comfortable with your discomfort or your uncomfortableness in stepping into or taking the risk to start Authentically American. I mean, clearly, there's no doubt from this conversation that you went in with, both feet, fully. And yet, there's always, I think, when we take a risk, we can believe in it fully and still not be totally comfortable with it, right?
There's no doubt about it. And there have been times when I wasn't sure if we're going to meet payroll on Friday, and when there was next to nothing in the checking account, and are we going to be able to, pay our suppliers and meet payroll? There were certainly times like, okay, did we make the right decision? Yeah. If it was easy, everybody would be doing it. And
right. That's
so excited. We're still a long ways from being fully established and in a great position, but it's been an incredible 3.5 years, and it's been an incredible run.
So let's talk about that for a moment. The whole notion of, you believe deeply in something, and you know that there are some pitfalls, and there may be weeks when you're wondering how you're going to meet payroll, or something happens with a supplier and they don't come through, or I mean there's factors that are out of your control and there are factors that are within your control. And so I'm just curious, and this is for our listeners too, because they're listening and they're thinking, gee, is this the kind of thing I'd want to be taking a risk or taking a chance on, whether I'm starting my own thing or even just thinking about stepping into a blank sheet of paper. It could even just be a job, not necessarily self-employment, right? I'm just curious, what do you think are the key things that keep you going?
Well, Tammy, I get asked quite often by my own kids and speaking at events, or people I'm coaching or mentoring. Well, Dean, if there was one piece of advice, what would you say?
Yeah.
And it is always, without hesitation, find what you love, find what you're passionate about, and then pursue your passion. Because I've never worked more hours than I have right now, Tammy, but it doesn't feel like work.
Right.
I mean, I'm doing what I love. I'm pursuing my passion, and I don't get a lot of sleep right now, but I'm not tired. I'm energized, and I think it's just a fundamental key in life. So if you find something that you love, and for me, it's our vision and our mission and opportunity to create jobs and make a difference. And then I think that also starts to tie in, am I doing what I do reasonably well? And my focus at our business is on the business development, sales, strategy,
right,
the PR side. And that's what I love, but I'm surrounding myself with people that, have, strengths that complement the areas that I'm not as strong.
Right. Right.
And I think when you have a vision and a company and a product that you believe in, and you're doing what you're gifted at, and then you also have a team with like-minded values, I mean, that's where I don't feel like I'm working, even though, I mean, there's some crazy hours that I'm working.
Well, that also ties in with what do we call work? I think we've had this notion of what we call work, as if there's a difference between work and life. And I've been trying to say this for a while now, that, we always try to create this separation between work, like we come home at the end of the day and we put the work outside the door, and then our life begins inside the house, right? And the fact is, if you love what you do, you don't have to separate them so much. I mean, yes, you change your activities when you're hanging out with your children, or whatever, but, it's a life. You're creating a life. And clearly your children are getting a very strong message about what it means to love what you do. And I also appreciate what you were saying about the kind of people that you surround yourself with, and the people that, I find that more often than not, people are, when they're feeling engaged by the culture that they've created at work, by the people they work with, they're almost less concerned with what they're actually doing day to day than they are with just the culture and the environment that they're in. And clearly what you're doing is important, but it's got to be a combination of those things. And it sounds like you've built both for yourself.
No doubt about it. And, here's that intentional word.
Yeah.
Again, because I'm with you, Tammy. I don't believe in balance. Somebody may look at my life and say, well, there's no balance. But to me, it's that work life integration, and how do you come together? And it's a very intentional choice with 4 kids that are very active in sports and activities.
Yeah.
I'm home every night for dinner. I'm home every night to go ahead and take them to hockey practice or take them to soccer practice. And I never miss that. And that's because that's what's important to me. It starts with my Christian faith and my family. And I even put my fitness and health as well. I don't miss a workout.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not very long. They're a quick 20, 30 minutes, but that gives me the capacity, that gives me the endurance, that gives me the energy to go ahead and drive. But it's all about making choices.
That's right. I'm with you. I think this whole notion of life-work balance is a misnomer. It's like aiming for perfection, and there is no such thing. I think most of us live some sort of a blend or integration, as you mentioned. And that's a far more human phenomena than some kind of balance. And I think when people reach for a balance, they're reaching for something that doesn't really exist.
Okay. And Tammy, and you and I are in this heroic public speaking course together. And
Yeah.
one of the things that, this data point is just so unbelievably disappointing and tragic to hear this, that, Gallup, which they do their studies, Gallup said that 85% of the workforce is disengaged.
Yes.
And that means only 15%, really love what they're doing. They're really passionate about what they're doing, whether they're working in their own entrepreneurial startup, they're working in a big Fortune 500 company. And to me, that's a tragedy.
That's why I'm doing what I'm doing here, Dean. That's why you and I are sitting here and having this conversation, hopefully to inspire people to make some changes so that they can be part of that 15%. Hopefully we can grow that 15% to be bigger, because life is worth more than just bringing home a paycheck, even though we all need a paycheck.
Oh, yeah.
My
whole philosophy, Tammy, is, we all have to have some income. We have to be able to feed our families. We have to provide for our livelihood.
Absolutely.
But I remember my 22-year-old daughter, who graduated from the University of Tennessee, bringing home an article that she read in the paper or online that said, okay, Dad, here's all the industries that they say are the best paying.
Yeah.
I'm like, throw that away, because certainly some industries are going to pay better than others. But the whole philosophy that I have, if you're doing what you love, you're doing what you're passionate about and you're good at, you're not just going to be good.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to be great.
Yeah.
And anything that you do, relatively speaking, great. I mean, you're going to be fairly well compensated.
Right. Right. I agree. Mm-hmm. Totally. And, I think that some people don't quite agree with that. They think that you shouldn't necessarily bank on your passions. But I think that if you are feeling engaged by what you're doing, chances are there's some element of passion or love for what you're doing. And if it doesn't pay well enough, you find another way to bring in the money you need to bring in. But if you're not feeling engaged in your life in general, then you're really at a loss.
No doubt about it. And Tammy, this morning, for example, and this happens almost every morning, I get up before the alarm. And today it was 3 a.m., not because the alarm was saying get up, but there were things that on my mind. I was excited, energized. I want to get to the office. I want to go ahead and, get after it.
Yeah.
And that passion, that drive, that, interest in what you're doing.
Yeah.
It just changes the whole perspective.
Yeah. Wow. That's really drive.
That's why the joke is back to Ranger School. Tammy, like, well, I'll sleep in heaven, because I've figured out that I can, operate on not a lot of sleep and still perform. But I will tell you, when I go horizontal at night, I can't even spell insomnia. I mean, it's 30 seconds or less, we are out.
I can only imagine. Well, Dean, this has been really, really fun and engaging. Let's tell our listeners, how can they find you and learn more about your work and Authentically American?
Well, Tammy, I would love for people, the easiest way is to go to our website, authenticallyamerican.us. And that was, again, an intentional choice.us, given our brand and being all American made. Mm-hmm. And there's really two ways you can go ahead and, be involved with our brand. So one, as an individual consumer, mm-hmm. you can buy your new favorite t-shirt or your new favorite polo or pair of socks, anything apparel wise as an individual consumer. But the other way, Tammy, if you're a business owner, if you run a charity, if you run an organization, that is how our business started. So instead of buying a polo or a t-shirt with your company logo that's made in China, now you have a choice, mm-hmm. a high quality American made choice that's competitively priced. And that's what we're excited about, because now, whether you're an individual consumer or a business or a charity or any organization, you now have an opportunity to make a choice for American made.
So people can buy branded apparel from you.
They absolutely can. And it's custom.
Great. And before we sign off here, tell us a little bit about the charities that you're involved with that you donate some of your profits to.
Well, Tammy, I'm so glad you brought that up because, again, back to being intentional, we really believe in giving back, and that is manifested two ways. So one, very intentionally, we donate 10% of our profits to veteran and first responder charities, and that's a way for us to honor our American heroes.
Mm-hmm.
The other way, if you're a charity and you're looking to make a difference as well, almost every charity out there will buy T-shirts. They will buy sweatshirts. They'll buy hats with their charity's logo.
Mm-hmm.
And what we do, Tammy, when we partner with a charity, we provide our goods and services at cost.
Oh.
And that's a way for a charity to go ahead and save money. And usually they can build their brand and raise some money in the process because we have a full end-to-end service. We help them with the graphic design, build an online store, collect payment, do everything. So that is the fastest growing segment of our business coming out of COVID because so many charities were struggling. Mm-hmm. When it's the highest unemployment level since the Great Depression, people aren't writing as many checks to charities. So we proactively reached out to charities and said, hey, we want to help you survive during this time.
Right.
That whole business model not only helped charities, helped reinforce our giving back, but so many more people now were aware of Authentically American by our work with charities.
That's great. Love hearing that. This is wonderful. Well, Dean, thank you so much again for being here today. And looking forward to seeing where Authentically American keeps going and growing.
Well, I appreciate that, Tammy. And one promise, since you've not been to Nashville, you've got to tell me some point in 2021, especially when it opens up, you come down for a visit and see this great city, and you can stop by our office as well.
Oh, I'd love to. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Tammy.
I hope you enjoyed my interview with Dean Wegner. It was so interesting to speak with him about his professional journey. What is your key takeaway from our interview? If you are interested in any of the resources or links mentioned in today's podcast, you can find them on the blog page of my website at tammygoolerloeb.com. Just look for episode 128. Are you thinking about what's next for you? Maybe you're just feeling a little stuck. Get specialized group and individualized support, insights, and accountability from a brilliant mix of professional women in a safe, non-judgmental creative space. Join one of my small hybrid mastermind coaching groups. They're starting on a rolling basis. You can learn more at https://bit.ly/navigating career change. If you were inspired by this episode with Dean, please share it with your friends and colleagues. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss next week's show. Remember, subscribing is always free. Are you enjoying the podcast? I'd so appreciate your review on Apple Podcasts. It's easy to find through my website at tammygoolerloeb.com/podcast. Just click on the Apple Podcasts button and follow the instructions provided there. Thanks so much for listening. And remember, it's never too late or too impossible to increase your sense of fulfillment and satisfaction in your work and other meaningful activities. I'd love to hear how it's going for you. Feel free to drop me a line. Bye for now.
Thank you for listening to the Work from the Inside Out podcast. For more information, you can find us at www.workfromtheinsideout.com.